no. What that means is by fire, frequency, or vibration, humankind is made holy or whole. But the problem is that this energy, this Christos energy, this Inri energy, is so high that unless you're prepared to receive that energy, it's going to be like putting your finger in a light socket or walking into a blender. You're going to get your feathers ruffled. And the message that has always gone along with this Inri message is we have to raise our vibration. We have to eat better, we have to think better, and we have to do better things.
Well, there's no doubt about that. Upcoming events for you, you're going to be at Conscious Life in Los Angeles in February. I'll be there too. Yeah, we'll get together again. And tell me about the Soul Rising event in Nashville.
I have every spring, I'm sorry, George.
Sure.
Every spring I have an event here in Nashville where
it's a great event too, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, and this year it's focused on my Soul Rising material. All new information focusing on the seraphim and how we raise our vibration.
And also, of course, William has events in Egypt. That's where you met Claire.
Yes.
You're going back. When is that?
In January 17th through February 2nd. We've got a couple seats available. Last-minute sign-ups can come over to williamhenry.net, get information, and join us. It truly is the trip of a lifetime.
And it's safe to go to Egypt these days, right?
Egypt is perfectly safe. It's in fact, they embrace people from the West. They're very, very open-hearted people, and it's, to me, one of the safest places on the planet, actually.
You know, we lost our dear friend Glenn Kimball this year, and he loved Egypt.
I know he did. I miss Glenn. I also miss our friend Lawrence Gardner. It was been a tough year in that regard, and then we lose Zachariah Sitchin on top of that.
They go in threes, William. Stick around. We'll be back in a moment. We'll take phone calls with William Henry next on Coast to Coast AM. Well, we've got William Henry, and we've got you this hour. We're going to take phone calls with William Henry in a moment right here on Coast to Coast AM. Hey, William, when you were a little boy, were you interested in this kind of material?
No, I wasn't. I grew up in the Detroit area. My whole emphasis, my focus was on sports and music. I played a lot of baseball, a lot of football, played a lot of guitar. And but then, it was kind of funny because when I was in my 30s, I came home one day with a piece of moldavite, this rock. They call it the windshield of a UFO because it's green and you can see through it. It was actually from a meteorite that crashed in Moldavia. And my mom asked, "Is that from Idaho?" And I said, no, it's from Moldavia. Why do you ask? And she said, well, don't you remember when you were 10 or so, we went out to the Craters of the Moon National Park, and you made your father pull over so you could go stand out in the middle of this volcanic field. And we looked at you at that moment going, what's up with our kid? Why does he want to go out and stand out in the middle of this volcano? And so, I don't know. It's one of those things. But no, growing up, it was all about sports and music for me.
When did you leave Detroit? What year?
I left in 1982.
You left in 82. I left in 78. I went to Minneapolis for a year, then St. Louis, and now I bop all over the place. But
right.
Great town, great hometown, too.
Yeah, it is. It's a great hometown, and I'm really hoping that they come up with the out-of-the-box solution that's going to revive Detroit. It's really sad what's happened there. It can happen anywhere is the thing. And I think
I also hope they come up with a solution to revive the Detroit Lions.
Oh, yeah, right. Now, that's a miracle. That could be one of the miracles of 2012. Yeah,
it probably could be. As we approach 2012, and everybody has a theory, William. Everybody has a theory. I also still think, though, there's going to be some kind of solar event, some kind of tie-in to the sun. Maybe an X-flare. That's what I've said. I've gone on record as saying that. I think the Mayans were adept at astronomy. Something's going on there. Would you consider possibly that too?
Oh, this goes to what we were saying just before the break, George, about the sun, Inri, being a source of a vibration. And, of course, the idea is that it emanates from the center of the Milky Way galaxy and then gets stepped down through our sun. And so I totally agree with you that any kind of vibration, solar flare, something like that activity would, on one level, could be disastrous, but yet on another level, it could be an opportunity for us to bathe ourselves in this higher vibration or higher frequency if we're so prepared. If we're not, as I said, it's going to be a bad hair day, and it could certainly be a bad hair day technologically speaking, but at the spiritual level, I do believe the ancients are telling us you want to become one with the sun. The sun is the way and the truth and the light. The way to heaven is through the sun, and the sun is the gate or sun tunnel or star tunnel that links us to the center of the galaxy. And in my Soul Rising presentation, I spent a lot of time on the idea of Pentecost, which is really fascinating, George, because the Christian images of Pentecost, which happened 50 days after Jesus' ascension, you see this fire frequency or vibration coming down from the heavenly realms, probably the center of the galaxy, symbolized by the dove, often a radiant dove, entering into the crown or crown chakras of the disciples who are gathered in the upper room. And it shows them with flames coming out of the top of their heads. And I look at this and say, well, these Christian depictions of Pentecost, of this higher energy, of the Holy Spirit, this cosmic energy coming through the sun or from the sun, Jesus, in the Christian perspective, these depictions exactly match what the ancient Egyptians were showing when Akhenaten and Nefertiti were lined up with the Aten disk, the light that illuminates the sun. And we know for a fact that the Essenes were huge researchers of the revelation of Akhenaten and Nefertiti, and I believe what they possessed, George, was a technique, a spiritual technology that opened their consciousness to this higher frequency or vibration coming from the center of the galaxy that is called the Holy Spirit, is symbolized by the dove, but is in fact a cosmic energy that can awaken our consciousness if we're attuned to it. Mary, not John the Baptist, but the brother of Jesus, James, Mary Magdalene, Jesus' other family members, were these disciples gathered in the upper room who knew how to do this. And this is something I'm attempting to find out, is what was it that they did? How did he attune their consciousness so that they could receive this fire frequency or vibration called the Holy Spirit?
All right, back to the phones we go. First-time caller, Wesley, truck driving in Texas. You're up. Hey, Wesley, go ahead.
Hey, what's up?
Hi, good to have you with. Turn your radio down and go ahead.
Yeah, I just did.
Okay, thanks.
Make a long story short, George, I called here a while back. Me and my father was on the going down an old country road, and I called I was asking, you had two ladies guests in there, and I believe they were talking about magic or something like that.
Okay.
And I'm sure you've slept since then, but just to give William, touch base with him real fast in a hurry, we were going down the road, and it looked like a car was on the side of the road. It looked like two headlights were really, 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 really bright. And the closer we got to it, the brighter it was. But when we finally got up on it, it was on a bridge, and it was two things glowing like light bulbs, exactly like you explained it. That is the first time I've ever heard anybody. I can picture it in my mind, and it just gives me chills. It was beautiful, but scary at the same time. Like when people, when they say, shadow people, I see shadow people, they're 6 feet tall and they have like a veil on them. Well, that's what it looked like. It looked like a person with a veil, like a robe type form, but they were glowing. And that's
Wow.
the first time I've ever heard anybody say that, So I was wondering, the question I had for you is, I have two questions for you. One is about the picture. I believe you said that somebody had like a Kodak picture. I was wondering if there's any way that you could put that up somewhere so I could look at it to kind of visualize to see if that's what I saw. And my other question for you is kind of like the shadow people. They say shadow people feed off of negative energy, like fighting and stuff like that. Well, what would the glowing people, I guess you could say, or the rainbow effect creatures, what would they feed off of? I guess that's my questions I have for you. And George, I love the show.
All right, thanks, Wesley. Go ahead, William.
Okay, yeah, I'll ask my friend who gave me that photo if I can post it on my website, and I'll of course send it on to Coast2Coast as well. And I think what he's describing here could be some of these transfigured beings who are wearing this cloak of illumination, this robe of light, this shroud. He described it as a veil of light that they're wearing, almost like they're wearing this bright white clothing. On my website, in the About William Henry section, I have a painting by Fra Angelico from Florence, Italy, that shows Jesus wearing the cloak of light. And I would imagine that if the caller were to visit my website and look at that image, he would resonate with what he's seeing there. It'd be probably strikingly similar to what he saw.
You know, William, if the Shroud of Turin is legitimate, and I have reason to believe it is, it would explain this glow, this pulse of energy, don't you think?
That's right. Absolutely. I mean, that's the perspective, is that this is a relic of Jesus' ascension, or his resurrection, in which he pulses into this being of light, this uniform, radiant being of light. And now what I've been tracking is like, okay, well, what does he do after